NFL Saturday is here. We have two NFL games, and we're going to talk about it. I'll give out my two favorite picks. We'll have a completely different video for Sunday's NFL slate. What's going on? My name's Austin from Calling Our Shot. Let's talk about last week, though. A very weird one. Had a weird ending with Monday Night Football. Obviously, if you haven't seen the news, Damar Hamlin, prayers out to him. As of right now, I put an update on the screen. Everything's looking pretty solid, positive direction for him, but obviously you never really know. So prayers out to him. It was a weird week in the NFL. Either way, beautiful thing to see him at least getting better. And it feels weird transitioning from that to sports betting, but that's what I'm going to do, and we're going to try to transition the best we can. If you are new, like I said, my name's Austin. Welcome to the Calling Our Shot channel. We're closing in on 70,000 subscribers. If you want to do me a favor, go down below, hit that subscribe button, drop a like too. We do these videos. We'll have another one for Sunday's NFL slate, probably live sometime Saturday afternoon. And we obviously do our NBA videos every single morning. And we'll have a college football national championship video probably live on Sunday night. Now, of course, it's time to dive into our favorite picks. We're going to start with the first game. I believe starts at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, maybe a little bit early, maybe at 4. Going to Raiders versus Chiefs. I'm taking the latter play. Travis Kelce, that is. Now, he might be on the thumbnail. I like his over in receiving yards, but I'm also do a little bit of a sprinkle on another alt over for him. So what exactly I got going? I got one unit, which is a standard bankroll managed, 1% of your bankroll, putting on his over 71.5 receiving yards. But I also like his over at 100 plus receiving yards. So we're putting a quarter of a unit on that, plus 250. Now, you could play his regular line up to 76.5 if you want. And if maybe you don't have the alt line, and that's fine. We're just going for a little bit extra value on Mr. Travis Kelce. Now, let's talk about why we like him. They're on the road, the Chiefs, that is, taking on the Raiders. Now, in Kelce's last 7 games versus the Raiders, he's averaged 86.1 receiving yards per game, recording 100 plus in 4 of 7 games. So he's climbed the ladder that we need, just a mini ladder. You can go even higher if you want, but he's climbed the ladder that we're taking in 4 of those 7. That's a great record, 90 plus hitting this over in 5 of 7. Now, look at the last 2 games against the Raiders. Very weird. You see Kelce with only 25 and 27 receiving yards. I believe the 27 was earlier this year. So they did a good job covering him, although he had 4 touchdowns versus them earlier this year. So a mixed bag here, because you got a guy that doesn't get a lot of yards but scores 4 touchdowns. He was odds boosted in that game. I do remember that. And Kelce on the year been as good as it comes over this line in 9 of 16 games. Climbing the full ladder, we got 100 plus in 6 of 16. So a great track record. The Raiders have wishy-washy numbers on tight ends. They haven't necessarily faced a lot of elite tight ends. I think Pat Freiermuth had about 66 yards versus them a couple weeks ago. So did Gerald Everett. He had like 80 yards. So it's not like they've faced a ton of elite tight ends. Their defense is all right. This is the final game of the season. How much do they necessarily really care about this one? I don't know. But what I really want to look into is that a lot of talk about, if you go onto Twitter or you go onto YouTube, you might see a lot of people talking about incentives. Now, I don't necessarily know Kelce's incentive bonuses structure. They kind of normally make all of his money guaranteed, given how good he's been, and to create more cap space for other guys. But what I do want to know is he has some history on the line. He's 117 receiving yards away from setting an NFL record for receiving yards by a tight end set by himself. Back in 2020, he had 1,416 yards. He currently sits at 1,300. So he needs 117 to climb the full ladder to hit that record. But if we look at his regular line, he's only 78 away from passing George Kittle for second most. Now, I don't necessarily know how much these records mean to Travis Kelce. I don't know him personally, although I would love to maybe be on his podcast one day. But I do think that he's going to at least have this in the back of his mind. I think he's one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. And I think it would be cool if he has the number 1 and number 2 and maybe the number 3 season next year, because he's been so good. But I think he has a great game. Pat Mahomes, you look at his passing yards lines at the 324.5. So currently a lot of passing yards to go around. And I think Kelce can certainly get a 76 or 72 to hit his regular line, but hopefully he can climb the ladder, go over 100. Coming off a weird week, only like 43 receiving yards last week versus the Broncos, a very good defense, while the Raiders kind of held him down in the game earlier this year. I think Kelce gets back doing what he does best. I like him up to 100 plus receiving yards, which is a plus 250. We're going to climb the ladder with Mr. Travis Kelce, one of the best there is to do it. And then we might be betting on him in a couple weeks when we get to the playoffs. Now, for my spread pick, I'm going to go to the second game on the slate, the 8:15 start. The Jaguars taking on the Titans. I'm leaning the Titans. I'm taking them. Plus 6.5, putting a unit on their spread. Now, look, the winner of this game is a big-time game. Winner, go home. If you will, it's a must-win game for both teams. The winner wins the AFC South, clinches a playoff spot, and also clinches a home playoff game next weekend. Now, obviously, a lot is on the line for both teams. There's going to be a lot of pressure. The Jacksonville TD Banks, I always forget the name of their stadium. It will be bumping. And look, if we look at both these two teams, very up and down season. If you've been a fan of them, you've had your highs, you had your lows. You look at the Jaguars, 2-1. Then they lost every single game in October. They lost 6 in a row. And then now they've won 6 of their last 8. A very up and down season. Now they're at the up. You look at the Titans team, started 7-3, had some very close losses. Now they've lost 6 in a row games. A lot of it due to injuries, but hey, you still lost those games. Teams have won games despite the injured players. And look at this teams they played earlier a couple weeks back. The Tennessee Titans lost that game. They were at home. They lost 36-22. Obviously not covering this 6.5 points we need. Now, the books clearly expect a much lower scoring game. The over-under sitting at 39.5, 40.5. And look, these teams combined for 58 points previously. So they're obviously expecting a lower scoring game. And it's no secret, the Jaguars have played better than the Titans have recently. The Titans are dealing with a ton of injuries this far into the year, but I trust Mike Vrabel, a very, very good head coach. He's as good as it gets. And the Titans, I don't necessarily say they win this game outright. That would be a bold statement of me, but 6.5 just feels like a lot of points to give for this Tennessee Titans team that has a lot of heart, especially given from their head coach. Now, the Titans rested everyone last week. They played a couple guys, but they just punted on that game on Thursday Night Football against the Cowboys, and they kept it somewhat close, only losing by 13, I think covering the regular spread, but Josh Dobbs making his second career start for this Titans team. And while he necessarily hasn't, doesn't have the best track record in his NFL career, Malik Willis at least might come in for, some spots plays. Maybe they bring him in on like 4th downs and stuff like that. But I think Josh Dobbs, he looked decent last week against the Cowboys. So it wasn't like he was lighting it up like Jared Stidham of the Raiders did in his first start, but he still played pretty well as the Cowboys defense that has talent on it too. And I just think Derrick Henry is going to have to carry the team here. It's no secret. The Jags know they're running the ball with Derrick Henry. It's just, can you stop it? And Derrick Henry's always showed up in the biggest moments. Mike Vrabel's always had a great game plan in those big moments. And while the Titans secondary, let's be honest, hasn't been great. I see everyone on these Zay Jones, Christian Kirk's overs. Like, I understand the Titans secondary has been brutal this year, but I think they find a way to mix up some coverages, maybe force Trevor Lawrence into a mistake or two. The Titans still have a great defensive line, which can cause problems, potentially lead to the Jacksonville Jaguars having to throw it a lot. And while Trevor Lawrence has been great, he's still a second-year quarterback. He's made tons of leaps and bounds. He's been much better this year than he was last year. Granted, props to the Jags GM and all their front office for getting him a lot of weapons to throw to. I think the Jaguars, I think this is a closer game than 6.5. The over-under projects it to be 40. I mean, if it's a low-scoring game, you're probably going to want the underdog plus 6.5. There's always a chance for maybe a backdoor of a touchdown or two here. I think this is more of like a field goal / 4-point game than it is 6.5, a touchdown game. I like the Jaguars. I like them. Well, no, I like the Titans. I like them plus 6.5. I know this is two close match teams. Jaguars have been playing better, but I like the Titans. I don't know. It's a close one, but I'm going to go with the Titans plus the 6.5. I think that's way too many points. If you wanted to player prop lean in that one, I kind of lean towards Derrick Henry. I mean, like, Derrick Henry's going to have to carry the load, and even if they're down in this game, I think the defense can keep them in. Their defensive line is very elite. They're going to show up. Mike Vrabel's one of the better coaches. Like I said, I'm betting on Vrabes here to get this team ready to go for this big time, basically a playoff game for both these two teams. So I like Derrick Henry. I think he has a big night, but I'll just take the Titans plus the 6.5. I'll obviously my player prop from the earlier game, Travis Kelce, climbing a little bit of a ladder. Those are my 2 plays. I'll have a video out probably by the time these 2 games start. I might have another video out for the NFL Sunday picks. Obviously, tread lightly. It's week 18 in the NFL. A lot of these teams don't care about it. This is one of the only 3 or 4 or 5 games that really matter to anyone in the NFL this weekend. But it's going to be a fun weekend. Regardless, we're going to try to find value and some edges where we can. Those are my 2 plays. Let's keep it rolling. See you guys back in for Saturday night for Sunday's video. You understand what I mean. I'll see you guys there. Peace out.